Welcome to the Station Wagon. I'm the older brother, Mark.
And I'm little sister, Julie. This is the podcast where my brother and I give up something we take for granted and tell you how it goes.
Buckle up and enjoy the ride. In this episode of the Station Wagon, we're going to be giving up sarcasm.
That's right, Mark. Instead of being insincere, we're going to be straightforward, honest, yet still funny. Thanks to Alicia Kim for the idea. If you have ideas of things we could be taking for granted and you'd like to hear us research and review, let us know. Send your suggestions to wagonpodcast@gmail.com. Shout out to us on Twitter. We are at WagonPod, or connect with us on Facebook.
So, Julie, let's talk about what sarcasm is.
I love your definitions. That's great.
Now, wait a minute. Are you being sarcastic right now?
Me? Sarcastic?
You know, when I told people that I was going to be giving up sarcasm, they were like, no, there's no way you can possibly do that.
Okay.
I want to prove all of them wrong. But first, to do that, we need to define what we're going to be giving up as we are known to do.
Okay.
And at first, I didn't think I was being sarcastic to folks because sarcasm is known as something that can be really taunting or cutting or mean.
Yeah, it definitely has a pejorative connotation. That means
yes.
It sounds like not very nice.
Wow, you are smart. See, that was sarcasm, right? Got it? Yeah. So the history of the word, it comes from a Greek verb, sarkazine, I think is how you would say it. And it literally means to tear the flesh like a dog. And it came to mean,
really?
Yeah, it came to mean to bite one's lip in rage or to gnash one's teeth.
Wow.
The noun version of that is a sneering or hurtful remark. And so I didn't think that I was being sarcastic because in general, I would say like 99% of the time, I don't hurt people's feelings, or at least that's not my intent.
Maybe you're doing it wrong.
Well, I could be. So when I was looking at this definition, I realized that no, actually, I do sarcasm a lot.
I can think of like several conversations I've had with you where I've been like, wait, are you kidding, right? Wait, what?
Yeah.
You are a classic middle child. I mean, you needed whatever you could to shine. And if it was your biting wit, so be it.
Sarcasm, of course, can be used to hurt or offend, but it can also be used for comic effect. And so I think when I think about you and I think about me, I hope, Julie, that we are using it more for its comic effect than to be mean to people.
I would hope so, but so much is in perception.
So yeah, it's all in the perceiver.
If you have a reputation for being someone who uses cutting humor,
right,
anytime you say anything, even if it's genuine, people are going to question it.
Okay, so let's define sarcasm as saying
the way Mark talks.
Saying the opposite of what you literally mean.
For humorous effect?
For or humorous or critical effect.
Love it. Okay, yeah, that's great.
Julie, you want to do the quiz?
Let's do the quiz.
Name 3 of the 7 types of sarcasm.
Okay, cartoon.
No.
British.
No.
Toolish.
No, but that would be one.
Okay,
no.
I give up.
Self-deprecating.
Oh, yeah.
Brooding. Deadpan. Polite. Obnoxious. Manic. And raging.
What is do you have examples of all these? Because, I mean, some of them are self-explanatory, but what's manic sarcasm?
Well, this type of sarcasm is delivered in an unnatural, happy mood that makes the speaker look like he has gone crazy.
Okay, so like if you have to spend 8 hours stuffing envelopes for your job, you could be like, this is the best day ever.
Right, and I've actually seen some My Little Ponies that act like this.
I believe you're referring to Pinkie Pie.
I think so.
But she's totally
Aren't
sincere.
You sure it's not Porky Pie?
But Pinkie Pie is totally sincere. Porky Pie's a tool. But Pinkie Pie, I mean, she's not like putting on a show. Rainbow Dash, maybe.
What are you saying about Rainbow Dash? Don't mess with Rainbow Dash. No, the one that I'm talking about like gets all squinty-eyed. I don't know. Which federal agency sought bids to identify sarcastic tweets on Twitter?
Food and Drug Administration.
Let me just give you the 3.
Homeland Security.
Oh, shush. Secret Service.
Oh, okay.
The NSA.
Uh-huh.
Or the FBI.
Oh, you're asking which of those three? I thought you were saying all three of those.
No. Come on, what do you think we live in? Like a, what do you call it?
A fascist junta?
A surveillance state?
Yeah, I'll go with FBI.
Secret Service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they wanted to determine sentiment and identify influencers on Twitter who might be doing something to harm the president.
Interesting.
Number 3, name one of the 3 ways you can deal with a sarcastic person as recommended by quickanddirtytips.com.
Treat everything they say as sincere. Like if you want them to stop, just be like, oh, really? You really like when I do that? Okay, great. I'll keep doing it.
Right. Very good. Answer them literally. That was great.
That's one of the tips I give my kids.
So you actually answered that one correctly. So good job. Yeah, you got one of the 3. So the other 3 options are ignore them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not as fun. And the other option is give some free advice.
If you ever want free advice, walk around being pregnant.
Yes, but how does that relate to being sarcastic?
It doesn't. I'm just saying when you're pregnant, it somehow makes everyone in the world think that they need to give you advice.
Well, it's because your body is sticking into their personal space.
You're right. Blame the fetus.
Right, totally. Hey, Julie, you want to hear some history of sarcasm?
Yes.
446 to 386, a guy named Aristophanes was around.
Is that BCE or CE?
That was BCE.
Whoa.
Yes, in ancient Greece. He was a comic playwright from Athens. And here's one of his quotes.
Euripides pants, Eumenides pants.
That was 2 rats from the young ones.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry.
Right. You have all the characteristics of a popular politician, a horrible voice, bad breeding, and a vulgar manner. That great satire?
That's good.
1775, Jane Austen was born.
Yay.
Yay. And so, you know, when I think about Jane Austen, I think about Sense and Sensibilities and Zombies, which is one of her seminal works.
Well,
but really, her earlier work is very satirical. The work called Love and Friendship. Have you read that one?
Yeah.
That was 1789. Were there zombies in that one too?
No, not many.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll get around to it later. She poked fun at the mainstream sensibility and romantic novels of the time with that work.
Yeah.
So that's really cool because I always thought Jane Austen books were kind of stuffy, but maybe I'll actually try to attack one.
Dude, you got to attack it.
1835.
Mr. Darcy.
Yeah, he kills a bunch of zombies, I think. 1915, The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka was written.
Was that a satirical thing?
You know, Kafka never really got along with his family, and he thought he was always mistreated by them. So the big bug that he turns into is horribly mistreated by the family, by his family that he's living with.
Oh, interesting.
It's a satire of the way a family can actually be mean to themselves, be mean to each other. 1950, Bill Murray was born.
Very funny guy, but again, not someone I really associate with sarcasm.
Watch any of his movies that he's in, and he's usually very deadpan.
Just the ones he's in?
If you want to watch all the movies that he's not in, that'd be fine too. But you really, to get a sense for the way he is, you probably should watch the ones that he's in. I'm just saying. Suggestion. 1952, Mad Magazine was launched. Which of course, I mean, it's hugely influential comic magazine, but very satirical about our society and culture, making fun of the 20th century landscape. 1979, Life of Brian was released.
Oh, yay!
If anybody hasn't heard of Life of Brian, please crawl out from underneath the rock you've been living under and go check it out. Very satirical and sarcastic about religion in general. 1989, The Sarcastic Guy from Kids in the Hall was released. Takes place at a party in an apartment, and one guy goes up to another guy and just starts trying to mingle with that guy and talk to him. And the other guy just comes out sounding incredibly sarcastic, and eventually it comes out that he has a speech impediment, and he just speaks in a sarcastic way all the time.
But even when he's saying that, you still don't know for sure.
You still really don't know for sure, but it's just
really
an awesome sketch about being sarcastic. 2006, a company called Sarcasm Incorporated was started up and introduced the Sarc mark. What? It's a typography font. You can get it installed in Outlook or WordPress, and it's this little icon that indicates you're being sarcastic.
Oh, so when you're writing an email, or is it for like when you're writing online, like a website?
For when you're writing an email or a blog.
Or
right,
a blog
exactly.
post. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because, those cues would be really hard to understand in text.
Right. And in 2011, the Sarcasm emoticon was launched in Facebook.
Wait, what does that look like?
Okay, so it's totally a text emoticon, a colon, S, and a smiley or a right parentheses. So it's like a smiley face without the nose. It has an S instead of the nose.
Does it look sarcastic to you? I mean, I can't really visualize this, I've got to admit. We'll have to put it in the show description.
It'll be in the show notes. It'll be in the history section of the show notes. 2012, one of my new favorite podcasts, Welcome to Night Vale, is launched. Do you know this podcast?
I do. I listened to like the first 30 episodes, and then it just got too depressing for me.
Really? Well, wait. I'm catching up. Like I'm on episode like 22 or 23, and Cecil's my hero. He's just great.
Oh my gosh, yeah, great guy.
Great guy, but totally satirical, totally sarcastic.
I love his voice.
And it's awesome too because it also brings in my other favorite sort of weird sci-fi genre of writing too, which is neat. 2013, Lunch Note was written and posted on Reddit. It's a great sarcastic letter to the person who stole another person's lunch.
Oh, I'm going to have to read that because I just wrote a note similar to that.
Oh, really?
Well, because I accidentally stole someone else's lunch.
Oh, God. I mean, it happens a lot and people leave a lot of these notes. You can find them all over the web, but this one's just wonderful. 2013, and this will be where I end it.
Okay.
Siri. Do you know what Siri is?
Yes. Is she sarcastic?
People on Reddit started posting Siri's sarcastic comments when she's doing what she's supposed to technically be doing. For example, a user says, Siri, I broke my leg. Call me an ambulance. And Siri says, okay, ambulance.
Oh my
God. So just examples like that. That was history.
So one of my favorite formats of reviewing science is talking about the good and bad. And for sarcasm, there's way more in the bad category than the good. So starting with the good. One, it's funny. It makes people laugh, and laughing is good.
Yes.
So there you go. That is a good.
Are we done?
On to the bad. The worst thing about sarcasm is that there's lots of differences in how well other people can understand it and perceive when you're being sarcastic versus just being sincere. Mm-hmm. So using a sarcastic tone seems to be the best cue.
You mean the words don't by themselves really cue up an individual? The tone really helps out?
Exactly. When you want to be sarcastic and you want people to know that you're being sarcastic and not take you sincerely, try to channel Mark's voice. Because
what?
You have a really
All right, I don't like the way this is going.
You have a really good sarcastic voice. I mean,
listeners,
you
I'm looking for a new sister.
You sound like you're kind of laughing a little bit, when you talk. I think when I'm sarcastic, I'm a little bit more deadpan, and that's not the best way because it is harder to perceive.
But are you saying that when people listen to me and it sounds like I'm kind of laughing at them all the time?
Not laughing at them, but maybe just laughing in general a little bit when you're making a joke. You've got you have the little Dick Van Dyke crack in your voice when you talk.
Okay, well, Dick Van Dyke was great.
People who know us best can detect it best. That makes sense.
Yeah,
but
totally. I always get that. I didn't know how to take you when I first met you.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah.
But here's the bad part. Even our partners aren't great at it. So there's
great at what? Picking up on it?
Yes. There's this fantastic study where they videotaped conversations, and then there were 3 people involved. So there's the speaker, the speaker's spouse, and then just a third person who doesn't know either person. The speaker, they said, okay, we want you to identify all the times during this conversation when you were sarcastic. They asked the spouse, identify all the times when the speaker was sarcastic. And then they asked the stranger, identify all the times the speaker was sarcastic. The speaker identified all the times that the intent was sarcasm. The spouses in this study did not pick up on all the sarcasm. And of course, the stranger picked up on far less. I would love to assume that when I'm being sarcastic that it's coming across, and that's a little disturbing. That means you could have a lot of opportunities for error. And
for hurting your relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Be careful is the underlying message there. Mm-hmm. If you're going to use sarcasm, especially with kids, again, use the Mark Schechter tone. So kids, are one of the groups that you probably need to be the most careful around with sarcasm, but there's others too I'll get to in a second. So some kids do get sarcasm. Mine are very interested in it because they hear it and they want to understand it and know it.
Mine too, yeah.
Here's some examples of like ways my kids have been trying to be sarcastic lately. Mommy, you smell great. And
that's awesome.
While they use the tone, they also use air quotes.
Yeah. So that's what happened this evening. And my older one was like, you don't need to use air quotes. So they were having this like coaching discussion about how to be sarcastic.
There is studies showing that kids do think of sarcasm as mean. So you got to wonder if your kids see you being sarcastic, what judgments are they making about you?
Right.
There's others who have problems understanding and detecting sarcasm too. Can you think of any particular kind of disorders or situations?
No.
Okay, well, individuals on the autistic spectrum, of course, would have problems detecting sarcasm because social cues are very difficult for Asperger's disorder and autism. And we know that autism spectrum disorders are pretty common. So you make a risk whenever you're using sarcasm with people you don't know very well that they might not be able to pick up on your cues. Also, people who've had traumatic brain injuries or if they've had some other denigration of particularly the right hemisphere of their brain, basically with cognition and being able to determine social cues such as Alzheimer's disease, some types of Parkinson's, then they might have a harder time differentiating between sarcasm and sincerity. Also, an interesting study showed that people as they get older have a harder time. Individuals with major depressive disorder, when they're in a depressive episode, might have a harder time differentiating. Also, when we're sleep deprived, we can still sense sarcasm, but it takes longer. Basically, all this is to say that there's going to be a lot of people in your life, for whatever reason, aren't going to pick up on your amazing witticism.
Let's talk about what we're going to do in this challenge.
Obviously, we're going to try to not be sarcastic for 2 weeks and just still be funny, right? I mean, we can still make jokes.
Yeah, we'll certainly try. We're going to be direct if we have an opinion about something. And if we sense that it's really going to hurt somebody's feelings, we will choose to probably not say it.
Or say it nicely. I mean, it's not like
say it nicely. Yeah, okay, all right.
Our two choices in the world are not be
binary.
Sarcastic or
be
don't say
mean.
anything at all.
Well, like Bambi's mom always said, run, it's fire.
I have a question for you. What about facial sarcasm? Is that a thing?
That's a thing. If somebody calls you out on it.
Yeah, because I think that's what I do. Because I have really good faces I make. I've been practicing my face in the mirror.
Does your face hurt?
No.
Oh, it's killing me.
Yeah.
By the way, I do that joke to my young one every time she gets her head hurt with something.
That's nice. You're just as sweet as Siri.
And she doesn't like it.
Yeah. Huh. We're going to take a quick break while you listen to the Pleasure Kills, and we'll fill you in on our success when we get back.
I'm Tony Lewis, and I do comedy. I just couldn't do it. I've quit smoking. I've quit drinking before. Quit drugs before. Sarcasm, I don't know. It's like, that's a rough one. With like my line of work, dealing with drunk people, sarcasm all the time, all day, every day. It's the best way to deal with, like, if you're 86ing somebody or they can't drink anymore. You're like, oh, of course you need another drink. You know what I mean? But I don't know, I was like the fat kid and like a middle child, so you had to use sarcasm to survive. Before I left, I'm bringing a TV down. I got a new TV, and I was bringing one down for a couple other comedians to have because they have a crappy TV, and I had to carry it by myself. And I was like, oh, this isn't an inconvenience or anything, like to my girlfriend, because of course it was. Stuff like that.
Thank you so much for your time today. If people want to hear your comedy or get in touch with you, what's the best way?
I'm on Twitter at Tony B Funny. That's where you can find me. Not my Facebook, unless you want to see what my aunts think about my life and comedy.
Hey, listeners, this episode is sponsored by Rumble Marketing. Rumble Marketing will help you explain even complicated products and services simply, crisply, and with compelling emotional resonance.
You can learn more about Rumble Marketing at rumblemarketing.com and on LinkedIn. And if you have a website or other kind of online campaign, consider their copywriting and content generation services. They can actually help you write your social media content, blog posts, develop your email campaigns, advertisements, and also check your landing pages and websites to make sure it's coherent and well written.
Will they actually have the A-team helping us?
They will have the A-team and the A-plus team.
And the A-plus team?
Rumble Marketing.
Rumble Marketing for all of your Rumble needs. So, hi, Julie. Welcome back.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
I'm good. I am been working very hard on being face valid.
Oh, that's an interesting statement. I've been working hard on not being sarcastic. I didn't know we were supposed to be face valid.
Oh, didn't you know that was our challenge for this?
No, what's face validity? What is that?
This is slightly controversial in the world of statistics. The way we refer to it, even though some folks, Jay Ozenbach, would say that face validity is not a true form of external validity. When you see an item or an assessment or some sort of measure, that it tests what it seems to test, that it is what it seems to be. So you know how folks always think, oh, you psychologists, you ask me a question, but really you're asking me what I think about my mother.
Right.
Well, if something's face valid, then a pipe is just a pipe or a pickle is just a pickle.
Okay.
Like if I say, hey, how are you today? And I'm being face valid, I really just am asking you how you are today.
Interesting. So being face valid means also being genuine and meaning literally or saying what you literally mean versus sarcasm, which is the exact opposite of that.
Exactly.
Very good.
And so I just wanted a really nice, nerdy way to
Yeah.
say
Well,
I'm
I
trying
think
to
you
be
won that
genuine.
award. Good job. Awesome. How did it go for you?
I was definitely able to cut down on my sarcasm by the end.
You were.
The first few days, I was being sarcastic without meaning to 4 or 5 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end, about once or twice, I would catch myself.
That's pretty amazing. So did you have any help? Like, did people point it out for you?
I was pretty good at noticing it right as it was coming out of my mouth.
Really?
You know, some of our verbal challenges have been tricky. Like with the gender pronoun one, I was completely unaware the entire time. I would just completely forget. With swearing, it was like this one. Like I could realize it as I was dropping the F-bomb. I realized I'm swearing. And same with this. I would say something sarcastic, make a joke, and realize as it was coming out of my mouth, it was sarcasm.
That's really funny.
Also with the swearing, I became really vigilant about other people using sarcasm around me.
What do you mean?
And
like you would tell them to stop being sarcastic or point it out to them?
no,
In a rude way, in a rude, condescending way?
I just mean I was vigilant. Like it was salient to me. Can I describe that psychological term?
Yeah, sure. What, salient?
Yeah, is that something you know?
Salient meaning clear?
No, but that's a really, and I'm not trying to be condescending by asking you. This is one of those things that I don't know if it's jargon or not. Is this a term that everybody uses?
You're so institutionalized?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a description.
All right, go ahead.
So if something's salient, it's on your mind. So for example, if I say to you, hey, Mark, did you know that a lot of the people around you have weird looking nostrils? Then for like the next 2 days, you might notice nostrils wherever you go.
Oh, wait. So my 11-year-old daughter, her new favorite thing, or one of them, is to come up to us and say, your nose is not itchy. Your nose is not itchy. Your nose is not itchy. And like, what are you doing? And she says, well, is your nose itchy or not now? I'm like, no, it's totally itchy. Stop making me think about that.
Or if I say pink eye.
What about it?
Then, like, do your eyes start feeling itchy?
No, because I've actually never had pink eye.
Oh, man. Okay, well, we're mixing up a couple of different cognitive tricks.
Are we conflating?
But yeah. But if something's salient, it just means, like, you're just more aware of it because it's on your mind. Okay. So swearing was salient to me during our swearing episode, right. And sarcasm's been extremely salient to me.
On your mind.
So it's been on my mind.
So maybe one of the things we should give up is using quarter words when nickel words will do.
or jargon. Acronyms.
That sounds good. Okay. Keep going with how it went for you.
This fits into one of my general growing edges as a human, which is being a little bit more thoughtful about my speech, using humor a little bit less, especially in the workplace, and being especially careful when using humor that it's coming across well. You know, you and I are both in management positions, which means that when we make jokes, people might just laugh because they're being polite, not necessarily because we're actually funny.
Right.
Or they could be laughing at you in your case. And so it just means that we need to be a little careful about how we're using humor and sarcasm especially. I'm still working up to giving up humor for like self-deprecating jokes or reducing tension.
Well, you've got a lot to be self-deprecating about. Oh, touche. Back at ya.
That was a poorly worded version of my own much more awesome slam.
Was it a portmanteau?
No, yours was not a portmanteau. How did it go for you, Mark?
Working backwards from would I recommend this to a friend? I would not recommend this to a friend. And also, what? I think that, I think sarcasm is wonderful. As long as you're using it for humor and not to make people feel bad about themselves. Like, oh, Alita, that's a really beautiful picture that you drew in nursery school. Oh, that's great. I don't think people should get pinged on corporate performance reviews for being sarcastic unless they're being mean. I don't think people should say, to try to limit another person's being sarcastic unless it's really hurting somebody's feelings. And then if somebody complains about another being sarcastic, if it's not being mean, as judged by like reasonable people around, then the people who are complaining need to go through some kind of re-education program.
Okay, well, I completely disagree. Not because I'm afraid of hurting people's feelings, although that is something that I think bears weight. But I think because when you're sarcastic, if someone doesn't get it, and as we learned last time in the amazing science section, people are not always going to get that you're being sarcastic.
Right. Well, that's where the re-education comes in.
Then you lose some of the meaningfulness of what you're saying, and you just risk folks not understanding.
Well, can I just explain what the re-education program would entail?
Yes. Mark, please tell us all about the re-education program, because re-education programs in general sound
pretty awesome, right?
I was about to be really sarcastic there, and instead I wasn't.
No, you were genuine. You were portmanteau about it. So basically what you would do is you would strap a person to a chair, and you would have their eyes propped open with those things from A Clockwork Orange.
Keep it kid-friendly.
Right. Well, yeah. And
those stuffed animals from A Clockwork Orange.
And then they would be shown Monty Python videos. And that's it. That's the re-education program. And I think that would work after about 3 or 4 hours. They would completely get it.
Let's agree to disagree. So, working backwards, you would not recommend this to people?
No, because I believe sarcasm is just another personality trait and should be added to the Myers-Briggs if you believe that sort of thing exists.
If you believe the Myers-Briggs exists?
Correct.
The assessment does exist. It's used in workplaces all across the world.
I choose to unknow it.
You're such an ENTJ.
When I started doing this, first of all, I felt like a hollow shell of a person, and that's totally genuine.
Oh, no.
Well, I felt like I just was not myself, and there were...
Like you were muted?
Like I was Dorothy before she went to Oz, all sepia tone. I've got some comments from people that said, I will be glad when this is over because you don't sound like yourself. You actually sound like you are fake and not being real with me. Which was,
for real.
Yeah, for real. 2 or 3 people out of like the 100 or so that I bumped up against.
I wonder if it's because you were putting so much thought into what you were saying and how you were saying it that it was stall you. Like when you were trying to use the gender neutral pronouns,
Maybe.
like you said, your speech then just sounded really awkward and stilted. Could it be something like that? Or is it just because you didn't sound like normal, weird Mark?
What people told me was that when I stopped using the words, I still had the tone.
So confusing.
It is really confusing to me for a person who was genuinely trying to not be sarcastic, to be hampered by my subconscious way of talking. It was really hard.
And the tone is pretty much like the only interesting thing you've got. So
Thank
if you get rid of that.
Thank you for that.
I mean, there's the smell.
There's the smell. So can I finish this?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Do go on.
Let me think where I was. So people still thought I was being sarcastic. So I wasted a lot of time telling people, no, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm being genuine. That was my catchphrase over the last 2 weeks by me.
That stinks.
That part really kind of was terrible.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that for someone like you, who you really do use sarcasm quite a bit, and the folks around you know to expect it, that it really is could be unrealistic to take it out completely.
I think unrealistic to take it down to 0, or even as low as you did. I would like to filter out as much of it as possible when I'm talking to new people. I constantly get feedback from folks that new people just don't know how to take me. I actually kept track using a clicker, like one of those kind that ticket takers use, a little metal one with the button.
That's so awesome.
Unlike you, I couldn't tell when it was coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I had to actually wait for people would tell me afterwards, and I'd be like, wait a second, are you sure that was sarcastic? And we'd have to talk about it. So that took up some more of my time because it's so ingrained in the way I talk, I think. So I carried this clicker with me on my belt. So it would be really...
That's not weird.
No, it's not weird at all, but it was really a good reminder.
That was sarcasm.
Oh, because it was weird.
It was very weird.
I had to do that as a way to keep track.
Yeah.
One of my coworkers actually... It was really cool. We've influenced a lot of lives through this particular effort for people
Hopefully for the better.
Yeah, I have at least 2 coworkers that I know of that kept track on pieces of paper of how sarcastic they were.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, and we're actually trying to minimize it, not just to keep track of it. To brag about it. So anyway, I had this clicker on my belt, and I volunteered at my daughter's 2nd grade classroom. And I got questions from 3 separate kids if I'm a bus driver.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because either the bus drivers, I guess they're just really sarcastic. No, Julie, that's not why. God bless you.
Don't let the pigeon drive the bus.
No, what? Is that like if you let a cat take a cookie to school? Is that like one of those books?
It is exactly like that.
Yeah, so no, it was actually because I had this clicker on my belt, and the bus drivers do that when you get on. So they all thought I was a bus driver, but the really awesome part about it...
Were they really disappointed when they found out what you actually do?
No, because then we got into a conversation about what is sarcasm. And talking to them about, being sarcastic. And one of the kids said, yeah, I'm not really sarcastic very much, but I'm very facetious.
Whoa, cool.
And I thought to myself, that kid is going to go places.
Washington State Public Schools?
Washington State Public Schools, and they're going to have a hard time on their performance reviews every year.
Yeah.
So that was all very interesting, and I'm glad we had that experience. I would not recommend that to anybody, as we said, and you would. Great. Fantastic. Well, I'm right, and Mom loves me more. Sarcasm, welcome back into my life. I love you and have missed you. If you're listening to us, you already know where to find us. But tell your friends, tell your mom that they can find us on wagonpod.com. And there you can listen to us, view our show notes, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or pretty much any other method that you have to subscribe to a podcast.
Absolutely. You can connect with us. We're on Facebook at the Station Wagon Podcast and Twitter at WagonPod.
And by connect with us, we actually mean talk to us and chat with us. We are a two-way road of communications. And that is not sarcasm. It sounded like it, but that wasn't.
It did.
That was totally genuine. We respond to our listeners.
I don't know. We might have needed you to give this up for longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to filter it down when I meet new people. Isn't that good enough?
Yeah, okay, fine.
All right. And last, please, if you like the show, give us a review on iTunes. Those help us out in some way. Right, Julie?
In many ways. Really, they're awesome. And email us your suggestions at wagonpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Also, thank you to the Pleasure Kills for the song Modern Problems. Thank you to Tony Lewis, a comedian, at Tony B Funny on Twitter. And it's just the letter B, by the way. Also, thank you, Rumble Marketing, for the sponsorship, helping us keep the lights on as always. And thank you to Geodoir, or possibly Geode War, we're unsure, for the iTunes reviews. Sorry if we butchered your name.
And thanks to our spouses and children for putting up with us and helping us put together the podcast.
As always, thank you. So, Mark, what's next time on the Station Wagon?
Next time on the Station Wagon, we're going to be giving up changing our clothes, meaning we're going to wear the same thing for 2 weeks straight. But we're not going to be giving up washing them.
Spoiler alert!
Spoiler alert. What? Did you say snarkasm?